inflation in Atlanta has been super high lately. So in this video, we're going to talk about how home prices have been affected by inflation. And then we'll also talk about how utilities and services, and more importantly, how gas and groceries have been affected by inflation. So let's go in here and check out some of the grocery prices. Okay, we've got groceries. Now we're at the gas station. Let's see how much gas costs today in Metro Atlanta. So in general, the inflation rate across the country has been about 3.5% for 2023. But here in Atlanta, the inflation rate has been about 4.4%, so a little higher than the average across the country. According to a website called wallethub.com, Atlanta is ranked 5th in all of the cities of the US in inflation. And this is kind of surprising to a lot of people. It was certainly surprising to me as I was getting ready for this video to hear that Atlanta is ranked 5th in all of the cities in the US, because we really don't think of Atlanta as being a high cost of living kind of metropolitan city. But the fact is that inflation rate is not really the same as the cost of living. In fact, the top 4 cities on that website were San Bernardino, San Diego, Tampa, and Miami. And we certainly don't think of Atlanta as having equal cost of living as like Miami, which was number 4. But to see that those two were right next to each other in inflation rate is super surprising. And the thing is that Miami has always had a very high cost of living, but it just has a even higher cost of living today. Atlanta, while it used to have a relatively lower cost of living, is much higher today. And this is certainly something that I think many people need to keep in mind when they're thinking about moving to Georgia and to Metro Atlanta, because while this city used to be an area where you could find a home for, relatively low price, the cost of homes is certainly much higher today than it was a decade ago. For example, the average sales price for a home in Metro Atlanta 10 years ago in 2013 was $170,000. And this is just mind-blowing to me that we used to have homes that low. So in the city of Atlanta and all of the surrounding suburbs, $170,000 was the average sales price for a home. And then 5 years ago in 2018, the average sales price for a home in Metro Atlanta was $255,000. So we jumped up a little bit during that 5-year time span, but in the last 5 years, home prices have jumped up significantly. In 2023, the average sales price for a home was $415,000. So we went from $170,000 10 years ago to $415,000 in 2023. And this is a very significant jump. And a lot of people want to know, why has Atlanta experienced so much inflation? 5th most in the country. Why is Atlanta experiencing this much inflation? And the reason is because of the amount of people who are moving to this area. And all of those people are very welcome, and I totally agree that Atlanta is a great place to live. We still do have a relatively lower cost of living than many of the other major cities of the US, but this influx of population is the reason why we are fifth most when it comes to inflation rate. The more the amount of people that come to an area, the more demand for services and goods and homes, and all of that increased demand leads to increased prices and increased costs for all of these things, for groceries and homes and utilities and also different services. So let's talk also about what this inflation looks like day to day here in Metro Atlanta. As someone who has lived here in Metro Atlanta for over 30 years, it's definitely something that we notice, the amount of inflation here in Atlanta. And it's mostly noticed in things like the grocery store or different services. So, for example, like lawn care, or if you are needing some kind of like repair with your home, these different kinds of services are really the main place where we see this increase in prices. We do see it a little bit at the gas pump or in like the utilities for like cable and internet or water, electricity. We do see it a little bit there, but it's not nearly as much as when you need to fix something on your car or when something goes bad at your home and you need like a repairman to come. Like those services are where we are seeing the biggest increase in prices. And of course, people who have lived here for a very long time and have had the benefits of the super low cost of living and the super low cost of all of these services for the last 10, 20 years will always complain about the increase in these costs now that we're experiencing so much inflation. But you have to realize many of the people who have lived here for so long don't really realize that the cost of these goods and these services are way higher in other parts of the country. So we are still relatively low when it comes to cost of living, but we do have to remember that the inflation rate is hitting Atlanta quite a bit more than other parts of the country. I think a really big factor for someone who's thinking about moving to Atlanta is what exactly is the cost of living? How much does it cost for a monthly mortgage here in Atlanta? Or how much do utilities cost here? Or, whatever it may be. Those are really some of the biggest factors that I think someone would be looking at if they were thinking about moving here to Metro Atlanta. And in fact, I made an entire video about the breakdown of the cost of living and monthly expenses of living here in Atlanta. If you want to see that video, check it out right here. I'll see you in the next one.